From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Possible, though, that from where he's coming from, if you practice, not you would be better, but your teammates would be better.
How the hell can I make my teammates better by practicing?
Bounce. Wake up! What up, everybody? Showtime. We're going to keep doing these for the foreseeable future. I'm sure at some point I shall retire to my manor in the greater Tampa Bay area, and Corey will get back to his homestead in Gwinnett County, Georgia. Well, in the meantime, we're still here. We're going to talk about the Knowles and other assorted news and notes in the world of college football and college athletics. Let's bring in Corey Clark now. Corey Clark, how are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. Thanks for bringing me in. I like that.
Anytime, man. Both hands, arms wide open. So, come on in, Yep. Exactly.
That's a point of pride for Tallahassee, right? That Creed came from Tallahassee.
Oh yeah. What do you got down there, Gainesville? Less than Jake. That's cool. Cool.
Tom Petty, right?
Oh yeah, that guy. He's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, he did all right.
You know, I was thinking about the whole music thing. It makes people upset when we talk about the music and how I don't see the rhyme and the reason behind the music. Like, the music's just it doesn't pump you up. Like, nothing they really play, and I get it. Like, I'm a 36-year-old guy from the suburbs. But, when I was younger, in my youth, there were things that made me tap my toes, got me lit, as the kids used to say in 2012.
Right.
Like, the other day I heard Running Down a Dream on the radio. I mean, can't you be 17 or 57 and, like, the last 2 minutes of running down a dream just makes you want it. Gets you a little pep in your step, right? You could use that in shoot around at the gym. You can use that pregame, and that's a pretty universally enjoyed song, right? You can find something that'll make you tap into a little extra. Do 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 do.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I feel like most teenagers in 2018, like 20-year-olds, are big Running Down a Dream fans. I get what you're saying. I like it, but they don't really make the music. They don't make the playlist for us. But you know what? That should be a punishment. Like, I assume most of the Florida State football team is not big country music fans. Right. So every time they lose a game, that following practice on Sunday, nothing but Hank Williams, senior.
Yes.
Just old school country, like boring ass country. Sorry, I'm sure there's some Hank Williams senior fans out there, but it was just different back in the 50s and 60s. Hank Williams Jr., not that he's real talented, but They might actually know the Monday Night Football song at least.
Merle Haggard.
Well, Merle Haggard, maybe some Willie Nelson. Look, I'm not besmirching these fine men. They made great music. It doesn't really relate to the kids on the Florida State 2018 football team, though. So if you want to get through to them and you want to make them really regret losing, that's where you switch the music to, or opera. Just, Nickelback, anything, Creed. Anything to get them to play harder.
Full circle. We just came full circle in 3 minutes of programming. That's pretty amazing right there. I feel good about this show. So that said, Corey, somewhat serious, and we'll talk about some other things, but, I mean, we'll be talking about this for the foreseeable future, unfortunately, because we don't have a football game to talk about, and basketball is just so hit or miss until conference season starts in terms of regularity of contests. Are you a punitive guy when it comes to, I don't know, rearing Brady? I mean, or do you stay the course? Like, that's the thing. Like, nothing ever changed at all. Granted, again, we saw at tops, 30 minutes of a practice once the season actually started.
Right.
I don't know how much. I mean, I know you're doing different sort of things, but I mean, that's the beginning of practice. Everybody's alive and chirping, fresh legs, everyone's ready to go. And it was the same thing every single day. I know they can maybe do some different stuff once we leave, but I don't know how much of they're changing the atmosphere. It's not like, hey, all right, they're gone. If anything, once we leave, they're cranking stuff up, I would think. Not music, but maybe intensity. Although by what we saw on the field, who knows how intense they were practicing. That's just that. I just figured maybe at some point he would knock that off and be like, all right, this is just not fostering an environment of learning or focus, or you guys aren't, nothing's translating from today to Wednesdays to Saturdays, but everything just stayed the same. And it's the whole damned if you do, damned if you don't thing where you're year one football coach. You've got your ideas, you have your principles, your bedrock sort of things, and you can't compromise them even when you're hitting rough waters. But I don't know, shouldn't there be some nobility in changing? I mean, I know he gave up, play calling to Walt, but it felt like towards the end there was a little more push and pull going on there. I mean, that's kind of what frustrates me today on this day when we're talking. And lots of different things will be frustrating me, but just the fact like nothing changed in the preparation for the games, and we didn't really see a lot of difference in the actual product on the field. So what gives?
Well, you started out by asking me if I was a punitive parent.
Yeah.
And then you and then you finished it up after that soliloquy with what gives. So I'm not sure what I should answer first, but I will go back to my parenting. And that's hard, man, because, look, when you have a 7, 8, 9-year-old boy, they fib. Lie, I guess is the correct term. They lie a lot. And you try to get that out of them. And like there are small lies and there are big lies. And the challenge I've had and his mom has had, my ex-wife Shanna has had, is how do you punish? Do you punish the little lie with the same verve as you would the big lie? Is it this, because a lie is a lie, and whether you're lying about stealing an extra cookie or you're lying about homework that you didn't turn in, you want to get them out of that habit. And so we probably to our detriment treat every little thing Brady does wrong like a big thing. Like, no, man, I said that, like, even if it's just wash your hands, go wash your hands, man. Okay, I'll do it in a second. 30 seconds later, nothing. Dude, go wash your hands. And I'm yelling as if he's setting the couch on fire. Not yelling, but I'm raising my voice as much as I will, as if he's setting the couch on fire when it's something small, like go wash your hands or put the toilet seat down or whatever. But it's just, if you don't follow directions and you don't do it right when I ask, and you don't do it the first or second time I ask, you've got to kind of try to hammer that out of them in every instance. And as that equates to a football team, man, I don't know. I think more than anything, you have to be consistent. And, I just don't know if you lost to Miami or you lost to Virginia Tech, the next day the music's down. Because, again, if you believe in how you're parenting, if you believe in how you're coaching, I don't think one instance is enough, or 2 instances, or in this case 7 instances, is enough to completely flip how you do things. You either believe in it or you don't. And the punitive stuff about taking away music or stuff like that, I don't think that's a big deal. I think they have to practice better, man. We were out there enough to watch them practice to know it doesn't feel like a real crisp experience. Now, we only see 5 periods, but it's not like meticulous in how they're running from station to station and we talked about the what was that, fumble drill?
Oh yeah, ball security.
Yeah, when the kid, whoever's at the end of the line smacking the ball, literally looks like he's smacking a 1-year-old baby in the head. Just as it was a pointless drill.
Don't smack 1-year-old babies in the head, people. Don't do that.
No, I mean, like, you're touching them like, hey, baby, I'm going to touch you in the head. Not baby. Like you're hitting baby. Sorry. Baby. You didn't want to hurt a baby. This guy was acting like, better analogy. The guy at the end of that drill was acting like they were holding live babies and did not want to hurt what was in their hand. That's how he was trying to get them ready for college defenses. It was a preposterous look. It was a 5-minute drill that completely just wasted time. Nobody got better. No, certainly the ball security didn't get better. It was just them going through the motions. And if you let people that are used to going through the motions continue to go through the motions, they'll do it on Saturday too. I just think all that needs to change. I think Willie Taggart should spend a week at Alabama. I think he should spend a week in New England. I think Florida State should pay for that. Whatever he has to do to go see how great coaches practice. And he's been around some great coaches. Jim Harbaugh was a really good NFL coach. And I think Willie visited with Dabo. a couple years ago. Go see how these guys practice for a game week, not in the spring, a game week. I don't know if they'd let you do that. Probably Clemson wouldn't. But just go see how what those kind of practices look like and try to incorporate some of it. You don't have to change who you are. But, man, you can't – imagine Nick Saban having a ball security drill that looked like that. Just a complete and utter waste of time. And you only get a finite amount of time with these guys each week. You can't waste it on that nonsense. And let me ask you a question, Aslan. Did this Florida State team seem to have some ball security issues?
Yes, it did rear its head throughout the season, it seemed.
Yeah, well, maybe because they drill it like they're holding newborn babies. And not footballs that the 20-year-olds are diving to try to rip out of your arms. Again, that was one video of one practice, but I thought it was very illuminating. Yeah. And it's stuff like that can't it's attention to detail. It's a small detail, but it's a drill that matters. Or otherwise, why are you doing it? And that whoever was at the end trying to swipe those balls out might as well have been, again, he just didn't want to hurt anyone. Didn't want to make them work at all. And it was just a useless, wasted drill.
Yeah, that was during the season. During spring, they did something similar, and they'd line up, and then Dante Pimpleton, running backs coach, would just kind of make sure they held it high and tight and had it in the right position, and then he would just kind of smack at it, and they would run through the little gauntlet of spring-loaded dummies. Yeah, I mean, they did that in March, and then in September, they didn't really graduate to anything more violent or physical. If you folks check out the videos that we have on the YouTube page for War Chant, we post the practice video every Tuesday and Wednesday when we're out there. They've got a guy out there with a boxing glove jabbing at them with the ball, but it's such a light jab that it's, I don't know, are we just trying to make sure he gets his credits so he can, move on to the next phase of his career? It did nothing for the football team. It was, again, a wasted 5 minutes for those running backs and receivers. You had former football players on Twitter that saw it, former Florida State football players that saw it, and were like appalled, like aghast, like what are they doing? And I don't know what the answer is. Get some walk-ons. Tell one of the walk-ons that if they can force 5 fumbles, they get put on scholarship. Whatever it means to get somebody on that end of that drill to actually make these guys better and learn how to carry a ball high and tight. Anyway, again, it's one small detail of there are much bigger problems within the Florida State program, but I think that can go to the heart of some issues that they had this year is practice time and what they're obviously doing with it. Again, I don't know that Greg Fry's a bad offensive line coach. For all I know, he's very good, but you got to coach him up at some point, man. I mean, we can't just say your offensive linemen are terrible and throw your arms up. You still coach who you got. And if I told you that Florida State, there are now 837 eligible players that have played the minimum number of snaps to be eligible in the country, and he had 837, 836, 815, 79. I mean, he had like 5 or 6 of the worst Power 5 linemen in the country. Make them better. Can you just not? They're just that bad that they're going to be graded the worst in the country. And again, they looked it. They never got better. And he's not working. It's not great clay that he's trying to mold. We all understand that. But heavens to Betsy, do some molding, make some of them improve. None of them were any good. So figure out things.
I don't know. I just there's a lot of there's something that's not taking in practice because you can't say that team practiced well. You just can't say that. They paid a really close attention to detail in practice, because if you did, you wouldn't look like that on Saturdays. So switch up the way you practice. I don't think it's the music, but switch up something. Switch it up, man. Look in the mirror. Go have enough pride, or have enough. Be egoless enough to go say, you know what, I'm going to go watch some of these other really good coaches around the country and see how they do it, or ask for advice on the best way to practice. Because I just the stuff that we saw on Saturday wasn't just every Saturday. I mean, wasn't just the product of a bad roster. It was the product of a bad roster not being coached well. So at least take care of that latter part. You know what I mean? At least go out of your way, do everything you can to make sure they're coached well. And don't just chalk it up to you need better players. That's obvious. But even when you get the better players in, if you practice like that, with little Roberto Duran at the end of the line, not even throwing jabs. I shouldn't even call him Roberto Duran.
Yeah, man, show respect. Hands of
Dora
stone.
the Explorer, throwing little tiny jabs at 20-year-old football players, man, and thinking that's making them better. That's pointless. Do away with that drill. Get some drills that work. Maybe get some better coaches, but make sure they're coached better.
And somebody posted this on the Tribal Council on WarChant.com. Use the promo code WarChant30 for a 30-day free trial. And then I posted in it as well, but they made the observation during pregame warm-ups that the Florida State stretch line is kind of a little bit messy. It's not very structured or organized. And again, I mean, I don't know how much of your warm-ups is going to affect third quarter execution of plays, but I think it's a cultural thing, and that's the hot buzzword everybody keeps talking about that Willie's trying to change. I mean, even the stretch line, they're not even in a row. They're not even in a line in the stretch line. It's a muddle. It's not even a huddle. It's just this massive humanity, like an amoeba, just blob of guys like crouching down doing their drills. I just think. And this came back to what we would talk about in February, March, and some of the first shows that we would do together is that I sort of valued, or I have in my mind, I think that football coaches need to be jerks to a large degree. I hope they want to be mean to us in the media, be nice to us, give us access. But like you, and I'm not saying that Willie's a pushover by any means, because we've seen him snap at his players in practice situations. But like little things like that, I mean, you want to, I don't know, like you got to walk it and then go out and play that way. Just when you're practicing in weird sort of methods, and then when you're getting ready for a game, it's just, I don't know, there's certain things, there's uniformity, there's rigidness and rules that gives kids, I don't know, like direction, so that they know what to do, how to do it. You need to look a certain way, you need to practice a certain way, prepare a certain way so that you play well. And that's another thing that I hope they look at. And I know people are like, man, really, are you upset right now, Azan, about the way they're stretching before a game? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, a little bit. It was bizarre. I think the only team that we saw that looked as sort of blah as them was Wake Forest. And there's nothing I want this football program to ever emulate that is in the same sentence and the same breadth of Wake Forest football. So let's figure that one out as well. But back to
again, it's not like they stretch in some sort of formation. It's just a weird one that looks like but they are in lines. It just looks bizarre. Again, that doesn't, we just have different philosophies on that. As long as it's like, as long as they're not just saying, hey guys, go out and stretch whenever you want to. They're not doing that. My problem, if you want to look at something pregame, is, you've got receivers kicking field goals 90 minutes before the game. You've got players in the parking lot talking with their families 90 minutes before the game. I've seen that multiple times this year. Again, I guess there's no rule you have to be in the locker room 2 hours before a game, getting stretched or getting ready or whatever. I don't want to say that. And again, this is all easy to say. It's all easy to criticize when you go 5-7. If they had gone 10-2, I'd be like, hey man, they're loose. That's why they're good.
Well,
they're
looking
loose.
for reasons
he
to
only,
explain
he doesn't
this
ask
away.
that much for them.
I mean, I'm looking for reasons to explain why this program just went 5-7 that don't include pinning it on the guy who used to be here and beating the dead horse that's the offensive line.
So, well, yeah, again, that's not something we shrug off, but that's not the only issue. I think there's a lot of stuff Willie needs to look at. I mean, I do. I think it's a concern to me as a coach. This is just me. I know I don't have a problem with having fun. I'm like Dabo's biggest fan now, and he's a goofball. He gets those kids to play hard, but when it's time to work, they work. But he also doesn't have his receivers 90 minutes before a ACC football game out there practicing field goals. Just out there practicing field goals and having DeAndre play cornerback as they're goofing around. I know I sound like an old curmudgeon, but I think there is something to that, man. If you let them fool around and goof around, especially a team that's not good during pregame, then what are they doing during practice? Like I think there's a middle ground between being scared to death of your coach, because I don't think that always equates well either. I think that can lead to a lot of mistakes, and we saw that again last year. You can do that, and you can be Willie, and there's a middle ground there, which is probably the right answer. I think Dabo is that middle ground. Like, he goofs around and has fun with those guys and slaps fives with the fans and everything. But those guys bust their ass, and they work hard, and they're coached well. And I just, again, there's a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up. A lot of little things. The biggest thing is the offensive line. We got it in the roster. The little things, though, attention to detail, rigid, whatever it needs to be, just a set schedule, a set way. Hey, man, guys, are y'all really kicking field goals 90 minutes before a game? Y'all doing that? 90 minutes before a game, y'all are getting ready to play an ACC game. You're out. DJ, you're kicking field goals. Tamori and Terry, you're kicking field goals instead of running routes or getting loose. DeAndre, you're playing cornerback. Anyway, that would bother me. And I'm sure they didn't ask Willie to go kick field goals. I'm sure Willie didn't say, hey, guys, if you get on the field 90 minutes before the game, do whatever you want. Do snow angels, break dance, whatever you want to do. I don't think he tells them that, but they also don't know enough not to do that. So that message needs to get through too. You don't have to be an ass, but you can be respected. And to me, just as a guy that's watched college football for 35 years, when you got players doing that before a game, 90 minutes before a game, or you got players in the parking lot talking with their family 90 minutes before a game, that doesn't show a lot of respect for where they are, what they're doing, and who they're playing for. That needs to change. And maybe that changes with a new group of players. But it needs to change. They can have fun. You can have all the fun you want, but respect the game.
That's going to take a while if it needs to be a bunch of new players. It takes a long time to flush a roster, man. 85 kids just don't – you can't make 85 kids disappear.
Well, next year, quite frankly, I won't half the roster be his, more than half the roster. Because there'll be some natural turnover. There'll be some guys leaving early or one guy leaving early, maybe two. And seniors, I would guess half the roster will be his. At that point, man – you better hope your half, if you believe in these guys that you're bringing in, if they're the guys you want, you better believe that half takes over the locker room and takes over the personality of the program.
How ready are they going to be? How ready are kids that just got done playing in the Georgia State playoffs going to be when they have to go into Death Valley and the Swamp?
Oh, man, not ready. They're not beating Clemson next year. Come on. That's not happening. But if you're changing the program, you better hope your guys, the guys that next year will be sophomores and the freshmen that are coming in, hopefully for his sake, a couple of them come in early and get a part of the program. You better hope those are the guys that start to step up and start to lead. And they take those strides, personality-wise, culture-wise, all that stuff, and they make it their own. And they don't let the kids that are still here that just went 12-13 in their last 25 games, control the attitude, mindset, personality of the program. Yeah. You can't, and I know freshmen aren't going to come in right away. Marvin Wilson's a guy that you can get behind. I think Dontavius is too. There are some guys that are holdovers from Jimbo that I think could be the leaders, and then these other the Jaden Woodbees of the world, the Keyshawn Heltons, James Blackman. I know he's a Jimbo guy too. Those guys can be the leaders. And then you got to hope that they're good leaders. They show them the right way. And then these other guys, just add a different kind of culture.
Yeah, let's hope. I mean,
they might not be able to block, so it won't matter.
Just to wrap up this sort of point, my thing was just being a kid. Like, there were teachers I know I could get away with stuff with, right? And then there were teachers I know that I couldn't even remotely try to act out of line with. And for some reason, I got my best grades in the classes where I had the teacher that I know I couldn't screw around and do anything with. Now, like the teachers that I could talk to my friends with and not pay attention in class, like, hey, Aslan, stop talking, and I would keep talking. Like, I appreciate the fact that they let me, they weren't so strict and draconian and like sending me to detention. Like, I appreciated that. So like, I wouldn't take total advantage of it. But like, I knew I could get away with stuff, and I wasn't at my best in those classes. And I don't know how you can try to be all things to all people. I know you mentioned Dabo tries to do that, tries to be the fun-loving guy. We see that. I don't know how much of that is maybe that's just walk through Dabo. I don't know how much of that's Sunday through Thursday Dabo. I just don't know if you can try to be all things to all people. And I know Bobby was a nice guy. Bobby Bowden wasn't, but Bobby Bowden, I don't think. I mean, he had the reverence towards the end of things, but he knew what he wanted. He knew how he wanted you to behave, and you knew how you had to react and act in front of him. And if you wanted to be part of this program, I don't know how much of this is a feeling out thing for these kids and trying to see what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. And I think maybe some of this, too, that I'm not factoring in is what Walt Bell's talked about with Willie, and then we should give him the benefit of the doubt, is that he's been around teams where when they do lose 2 or 3 games, guys start mailing it in, checking out, and they didn't do that on Willie. So maybe part of that maybe can be the fact that he does not deviate from who he is, and he does keep the music blaring, and he does keep things status quo so that it doesn't upset the apple cart that's already kind of busted a flat. It's things that, these are the things that we've observed, and you don't want to, I don't know, I'm not trying to say that I sat on it then and then now it's fair game, but these are the things that you talk about when you have a quiet moment in your head and you know you don't have a game anymore. There's no more games, Corey. No more football games this year.
That's right. If they wanted us to talk about the football team, they could have won an extra game, couldn't they have?
Yeah. All right, some good news real quickly. Our Michael Langston reports that he has spoken to Florida State commit Sam Howell from the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. I don't know how much of this is news, but just reaffirmation that he told Michael that he indeed will be signing with Florida State. Says that the previous visit that he was just on gave him the realization of the fact that being at Florida State is where he wants to be. Can't wait to get to work. So there's your quarterback potentially of the future. If there was any sort of concern that maybe he would jump ship with the undesired results that had fleshed out over Saturdays, not the case. Not the case with Sam Howell. So we'll see. I mentioned it on the Monday program. I think maybe a lot of this too is a quarterback will make a lot of things work well. I don't think though that Sam Howell is that guy on day one. Or even, I don't think he'll be that sort of dynamic guy that a Quentin Flowers was. But, man, if Willie could find one of those guys, I know we're still not beating Clemson next year, but maybe we could be competitive. That'd be kind of cool.
Well, that'd be cool to, lose some close games at least.
Yeah.
Be there in the fourth quarter. Those are fun. Man, I think the roster is going to be fine in 2 years. He's going to recruit at a level. I do think as long as they just don't implode next year, and win 6 or 7 games, because I can understand if a kid sees a team go 5-7 and then 2-10, like, yeah, no, that's going in the wrong direction. I don't want to be a part of that at all. I don't think 5-7 record is going to matter much at all. I mean, remember they came off they were 6-6 last year, and he landed a top 10 class with no time. Literally, he had like 8 days before the early signing period, and he still ended up landing a top 10 class. I don't think the record, one bad year, would matter much with recruits. I just don't. I do believe that. It's not great that you don't look competitive, and if a kid is choosing between Clemson and Florida State and he was at that game and saw that game, I can understand how he might veer towards Clemson. But, they all, number one, all these guys are good enough to think they're going to be the reason the program turns around. That's certainly what Willie's selling. And competition in practice matters. I think a chance to play early matters. And I think that's more than anything, location and a chance to play early. Because all these guys, and as long as they're buying Willie's message, I mean, again, Nick Saban took over an awful, and I know Nick Saban's the best that's ever done it. He took over an he took over a mediocre Alabama program. His first year, they went 7-6. He still was signing the best kids he could sign. Like the next year, they were number 1 in the country. Yeah. And so they lost to Florida in the SEC championship game. They were undefeated. So you can turn, and Lord knows they all jumped on the Saban train then, all the recruits did, and he hadn't slowed down since. But he was able to convince kids in 2006, in 2007, man, I'm turning this thing around, come be a part of a great tradition, and they jumped on it. So, and that was after a couple of bad seasons. So it's not just the records. It's if they believe in what the coach is selling and if they believe in their position coaches. And Willie's good at selling that stuff, man. Really good at it. So you can't sell 2-10 though. 5-7, hey, look at our offensive line. We got some bad breaks. We had some injuries. Should have won the Miami game, blah, blah, blah. Really could have been 6-6, 7-5, but we're moving in the right direction. You can sell that to a kid. Location, playing time, all that will matter. And plus, Willie's a pretty dynamic recruiter. I don't think he's not going to have a problem getting players. Well, going back to what we went back to, what we were talking about earlier, the difference to me, if you don't clean up the small stuff, and Florida State's always been bad in penalties. We get it. They're never going to be Navy. But all the just inexact nonsense. The 10 guys on the field running players on, the false starts. If you don't clean that up, even when you have a loaded roster, your ceiling is only so high. You're never going to have a roster loaded enough that you can just go out there and JV football it up and win 11 or 12 games. You have to be you have to pay attention to detail, man, or you're going to get beat. That false start that Nooney had on Saturday, what if that's against Clemson in the fourth quarter of a 6-point game? Or the false starts. That's the stuff you have to clean up if you want to go from good to great. Right now, the only thing I'm convinced of is that Willie Taggart is going to load up this roster. He's going to bring in his guys, and they're going to have a good roster in 2 years. But will he be able to coach it up to 11 wins? Man, I don't know. I don't know what the ceiling is when you lead the nation in penalties. Probably not 11 wins, though.
I don't know. See, I don't agree with you. I'm much more bearish now on how he's going to be able to recruit. And I get it that these are relationships that have been established for years. And the loss against Clemson's not going to make a kid, pick them over Florida State just because losing to Florida losing the way you did against Florida, losing the way you did against Notre Dame. Like, how can you be an actively involved parent in your kid's life and be like, yeah, I trust him, he'll fix it, because it didn't look that bad the year before. And I know Jimbo got blown out by Louisville. And what can I do, Corey, that will make you never compare Willie Taggart to Nick Saban? Like, what do you want me to do that you never bring that up again, ever? I'll do whatever you want.
I mean, probably $100 a week.
Well, like, not financial. I was going to say for the betterment of our show. No, like, is there a bad habit? Is there a crutch I lean on that I will know? I don't ever want to compare Willie Taggart to Nick Saban. Ever. Ever. Ever.
But what was the comparison?
That people saw Nick Saban struggle.
A program that was in disarray, that hadn't been good in a while, and immediately turned them around through 2 recruiting cycles.
Man, Nick Saban won national titles, Corey. People could fall back on that. He went in the NFL and actually did fairly decent. Like, I know what it takes to get to the NFL. He can do that. He can sell that. He was at LSU 4 years prior and won a national title.
I'll compare him to who? Dabo? Who do you want? Can I compare him to the LSU Nick Saban?
I don't think so.
Does that work? Same age, roughly, taking over a program that was not very good, trying to sell something.
If Nick
got his face stomped, if they believe in the coach, and Nick Saban, he had an okay career at Michigan State. He wasn't winning championships there, but he was able to convince those kids in Louisiana, those kids in Texas, to come play for him because they were going to do something special, and they became a recruiting juggernaut. When LSU has never been a factor in our lifetimes, and quite frankly, isn't really a factor since. But the Nick Saban era, because they believed in his message, and he obviously is a great coach, but he also brought in great players without much of a pedigree at that time as far as winning college football championships. He got those kids to believe. On what basis? LSU's great tradition?
If you're a kid from Louisiana, you go to LSU. And
that's not true. That's not true. It is now. It wasn't then. How did Florida State get Warwick Dunn and Travis Minor? How did USC get Joe McKnight? That wasn't the case. Nick Saban made it the case. And I'm certainly not comparing Willie Taggart and Nick Saban as like anywhere close to the same caliber of coaches, because nobody's close to Nick Saban, in my opinion. I guess Urban, but Urban's Urban. But when you're talking about how you get recruits to come to your school, a lot of it depends on them buying into what the coach is selling. It's not record. Because why did those kids in 2001 or 1999, whenever Nick Saban started there, why did they all go to LSU? It wasn't because of their great recent tradition. It's because they believed in that dude. If Willie Taggart can convince kids to believe in that dude, well, that's what I'm talking about. Just like Dabo somehow convinced Sammy Watkins and people like that to come play for him. And he ends up building a power without really anything other than his personality and some tradition from 25 years ago that he didn't really have a whole lot to sell, except they bought his personality. That's even though the records weren't there. He'd gone 6-7 and almost got fired. That recruiting class, he brings in Sammy Watkins. How's that happen?
Money. They
believed in him, right? That's my only point.
Bidding wars.
Well, true. The Clemson's got all that IPTAY money.
I don't know. That's the thing. Like, Willie sold his positivity, his message, and I don't want to say he burnt through all of it in the early signing period, but I mean, he obviously showed what he can sell when there's a blank canvas. Like, listen, this is my plan. This is how you fit into it. This is what I've done in the past. Trust me, it'll work out. But I don't know, like, if you're an actively involved parent in your kid's life and you've got Dabo calling your house and Ed Ogeron calling your house, which would be funny. I would just put Ed Ogeron on speaker and just, ask him to read me the phone book.
Right.
This looks so bad. And I know we just talked about Sam Howell. He's undeterred by it. He's a son of a coach. They still believe in things. So what is my opinion on this matter? Obviously, very little. But I don't know. I mean, I find it. I think.
Well, again, though, it doesn't. And I'm not saying that to be mean. You're not a parent of a 17-year-old athlete. All that matters is what those guys believe. I get why me, most of the Florida State fans are skeptical. I get it. But I don't know necessarily that we think like 17-year-old high school linebackers think. They might want to go play for the guy that, I don't know, that they want to help him turn it around. They want to help him be the first African-American to win a national championship. I don't know what Willie's selling, but that doesn't mean that they're not buying. That's all. I mean, we'll see. I think this year, next year, we'll see how he's able to recruit and what kind of players he brings in. I don't think again, the whole purpose of this back and forth is just me saying I don't think the 5-7 in losing to Florida is as big an impact as people might think it is. Again, Jimbo flipped that from day one, and they had lost to Florida for the better part of a decade, and he flipped it in day one, and he had no head coaching experience.
He had some more cachet, and I don't know, he could distance himself enough from how bad Florida State been. I mean, now you're the head coach. I think he'll still be able to recruit like a top 15 class, but like after this season, I really felt like you need like a top 3 class to make everything just feel right and to actually get the caliber of players that you needed. Now, listen, he's still. I think Michael Langston, I think some of the other guys in the business that cover recruiting on a day-to-day basis, they still feel really good about Florida State's chances to get Kayvon Thibodeau, who at some point I think was the number 1 overall prospect in the entire nation, according to some of these services. Maybe he is right now. He's the defensive end from California. Like, yeah, there's certain guys that are going to buy into Willie's message for sure. He's going to get guys. I just know if I just feel there's got to be enough 50-50 guys that after they saw this, it's going to be like, well, man, I mean, I know this kid, this Will Putnam kid that I mentioned the other day from Tampa, the offensive lineman, he's picking between, it seems like Florida State and Auburn. I think Michael Langston says that Auburn's the most striking competition. And like, man, listen, Auburn ain't anything, peaches and cream over there either. So you can probably beat Auburn heads up for somebody if you got a kid who lives in the state of Florida. But I don't know, man. It'd be tough to pull a kid from Georgia if he's considering, the Dogs and the Tide in Florida State. You have to really sell a lot of charisma. I don't know how much charisma can buy you, but that's for another day. Hey, let's talk about the All-ACC stuff. You voted, right?
Okay. I did vote, yeah.
Do they give you a sticker or anything cool like that? Like, I voted?
No, man. In fact, because I was having my phone issues on Sunday, and I think the deadline was 5, but I couldn't get on my phone. I couldn't get to my computer. So they were they called Derek at Florida State to say, hey, have you talked to Corey? Can he vote in this thing? Because we're still waiting on his ballot.
Oh,
and I kind of put them behind the 8 ball because they kept waiting on me to fill out my ballot. But I did, and the beauty of it, Aslan, how in the world am I supposed to know who the 5 best offensive linemen are in the ACC? Well, how in the world? And not only that, you have to rank like 12 of them.
Yeah.
So for second and third teams too, you have to rank like the top 12 offensive linemen.
Yeah. What do we do with 3 teams?
Did?
What are we doing 3 teams for, man? First team, second team, maybe honorable mention.
Yeah. Just more people the more reasons to write, I guess. But what Daddy did was I went to the Pro Football Focus grades and just went down the list. Weirdly, I never got into the 600s, so Florida State players didn't start popping up before I was done ranking my 12. And then same thing for defensive line, and all of them really. Like cornerback, you can go on interceptions, but does that really tell you who had the best year? It's just interceptions. So I looked all that up, and I used Pro Football Focus, just their overall season grades, and that's how I did my All-ACC team. And I can't fathom for the life of me, and this is a gripe, and Florida State media certainly doesn't have any reason to gripe about the All-ACC team this year because there were no Florida State players really deserving other than Brian Burns, who made it first team. But DeMarcus Christmas got third team, and Marvin Wilson got honorable mention. Nooney Murray got third team, and Tamorrion Terry got honorable mention. How could you watch this team play and think that 90 was better than 21 and 8 was better than 15?
Coaches, man. Trust coaches. They know what they're talking about. They know a lot more than we do. Did you look and see what the grades were with like DeMarcus versus Marvin?
Marvin was higher. And nobody, I don't think anybody else was using that as a gauge, but DeMarcus Christmas actually was pretty high, but for a lot higher than I thought he'd be. But Marvin Wilson was like the 5th highest defensive tackle in the country for grades, or 8th, something like that. Maybe 11th. He was 11th. Brian Burns was 5th for defensive ends, and Marvin Wilson was 11th in the country for defensive tackles. Like, he's a really good player. And then Tamorrion Terry, he led the league in yards per catch, was 2nd in touchdowns, like 5th in yards, and he's honorable mention. That was just bizarre. I voted him first team because that's how I am. I'm going to represent. My man, I got on that train when it wasn't even out of the station yet.
Yeah.
Just sitting there idling in the station, and you and I jumped on that thing when our engineer costume on, pulled the whistle, cranked the steam engine. That's how you just crank it, right? Isn't that how steam engines work? You just turn the key.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we're off down the road on that thing. We're on the Terry band. We've been on the Terry train since day one. So I'm going to vote for him first team All-ACC. I also think he deserved it. Like, if you look at the numbers, there weren't a lot of great wide receivers in the league this year. Clemson had some good guys, but their numbers weren't great either. And last thing, I voted Dabo Coach of the Year.
What? Over Dino Babers?
Yeah, well, I'm going to err on the side that goes the guy that goes undefeated. Because in my opinion, recruiting kind of is a big deal when it comes to coaching.
Yeah.
And when you loaded your defensive line with 4 top 2 round picks, and you got Mr. Sunshine Superstar at quarterback and an awesome running back and these crazy wide receivers, and you won every game you played, yeah, man, you deserve Coach of the Year. Good job, Dino. It was impressive. But, Dabo beat you with his backup quarterback.
His third-string quarterback.
Yeah, his third-string quarterback, son. Yeah, you third-string quarterback he beat you with, and he's not going to win Coach of the Year. Then Mike Krzyzewski hasn't won Coach of the Year since 2000. Yeah. So I'm not doing that anymore. I'm voting whoever's team has the best record. I'm voting their coach of the year.
Yeah. Some more good news.
Who do you think was Player of the Year?
What was that?
Who do you think should be Player of the Year
in the ACC? Yeah.
Like, the choices kind of, to me, were Lawrence, Etienne, A.J. Dillon, and I think I'm missing somebody. Maybe Finley. I don't know. There weren't a lot of great choices.
Yeah.
I think I went with Etienne, but I might have gone with Lawrence. I don't remember.
We shut down Etienne, man.
But you're right. Yeah, he didn't want any part of that vaunted Florida State defense.
I guess I'd say probably Dexter Lawrence. Yeah. Was he the one that scored on us?
Right? I think Christian Wilkins is the highest rated player in the ACC on the Pro Football Focus.
Whichever one. I would have given it to one of them then. Whichever one was higher ranked.
What was funny, though, is because on the ballot they do Freshman of the Year candidates, and there's like 12 of them or 14 of them. And I'm like, you know what? I'm looking at this list. Gosh darn it, I'm going to have to vote Tamorrion Terry Freshman of the Year. All right. And I actually clicked on his name, and then that's when I saw Trevor Lawrence. I'm like, yeah, never mind. Sorry, Tamorrion. I forgot all about Trevor Lawrence. So for half a second, Tamorrion Terry had a vote for Freshman of the Year.
He was second team All-ACC quarterback, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, to Finley.
Yeah.
Again,
they'll still lose.
I voted Trevor Lawrence one.
They won't get within. Alabama win by 20.
Man, Alabama ain't even going to be in the playoff.
Oh.
Son. Alabama's going to get embarrassed on Saturday in Atlanta, Georgia, 4 p.m. They don't want any part of that.
Are you any part of that
noise? That's a hungry team. It's a team that has a long memory from last year, and I don't expect it to be a game in the third quarter. Jalen Hurts might play because they don't want to get Tua hurt for the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah. Are you going to go to the game?
No, like the tickets are crazy. I was thinking about taking Brady, but Brady didn't seem all that excited. And I don't want to go watch Georgia lose like by that much. I can watch that at a house for free.
Yeah. I'm going to go.
I know you are, man. That should be exciting.
Yeah, I got to be around the game, man. If I'm not around the game, I don't know what to do. I mean, it's December. Right. Like, you can't just be like, "Oh, football season's over." That's not what Florida State fans are accustomed to. It's not what happens. That's not how you do it.
Right.
It's not how you do it. Are you more excited about the Braves getting Brian McCann back, or signing Josh Donaldson?
Probably Josh Donaldson. Big fan of McCann. I covered him in high school. Really good dude. Just a really good dude. But no, I think Josh Donaldson can actually still play and is going to be a big part of the. That was exciting. I like that. It's only a 1-year deal. Yeah. So if he's not the same Josh Donaldson that he was, I mean, he won the MVP a few years ago. If he can hit 30 home runs and drive in 100, big right-handed bat, I like it. It was a good signing, man. And if he's not any good, they can make a bigger deal next year. And McCann's just, he's going to get 300 at bats. Yeah. But it's cool that he's back. He was always Shanna's favorite player.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, she got mad at me because I knew her, and this is a weird story, and I'll be quick. But I covered Jeffrey and Corey and Brian McCann. They grew up. They were friends. They played in Gwinnett County in high school. So I covered them a lot at my previous job, or 2 jobs ago in Gwinnett in high school. And then so I would write a couple stories on them a year. So they knew who I was. I knew who they were, whatever.
I can't
but
picture
Shanna just
you doing
developed
preps.
A huge crush on Brian McCann.
I can't picture you doing preps, Corey. Like, I can't imagine you having to go to a high school and write a game.
I did it for because I'm too much of a diva now.
Yeah.
Back then I was a hard worker. And
love the game.
So I did it for I did it for what did I do it for 10 years, 11 years. So anyway, I became kind of friendly with him. I was pretty good friends with McCann's dad anyway. But anyway, so she has this big crush on McCann. We go out for a family trip to San Francisco in 2000, I want to say 2006, 2007 maybe. And we end up somehow staying at the exact same hotel as the Braves. Huh. And so one night we're across the street at this bar with my family, and Brian McCann and Jeffrey and Corey roll in. And they're sitting there with some buddies, and I go over there and just say, "Hey, man, just wanted to let y'all know whatever." I don't know what I said. They're like, "What the hell are you doing here?" Because, it's San Francisco. And then I thought, I didn't want to bother them necessarily. I didn't want them to think, "Oh, reporters here, we can't be ourselves." So I'm like, I just wanted to say hi, man. Y'all have a good night. But before I left, I was going to go introduce Shanna to Brian. But when I was in the bathroom, they bolted. So she always brought that up, that I had a chance to introduce her to Brian McCann, and I didn't.
You're the worst, man.
I know, man. I know. And he was right there. He was literally like 12 feet from us. I should have brought her over with me when I came up, but I didn't. I thought I'd have another chance, and now we're divorced. So
I walked up to Matt Ryan at the Masters and got his autograph for your son. You couldn't even introduce Brian McCann, a guy that that you're friendly with.
Well, see, the other day, remember when you asked me what happened, what went wrong?
Yeah, all right.
We're not married anymore. That's
right.
That's on the list.
Oh, Mack Brown, North Carolina. I'm all about it. I dig it, brother. I really do. Your thoughts?
Is that really going to happen?
I think they're making it sound like it is.
I mean, oh boy. I mean,
he's only 67, man.
He's what?
I think he's only 67.
Well, he's only 67. Well, heck, man, he's a spring chicken. I mean, I just don't think. I mean, sure, man, get the band back together. To me, it reminds me of bringing Joe Gibbs back to coach the Redskins.
They made it to the playoffs once or twice with him back there, didn't they?
I mean, they didn't return to glory. I don't see them. I don't see just the way Texas was left, and he's an older guy. Probably doesn't have the same drive as maybe a 38-year-old. Doesn't need the money, any of that stuff, man. It just seems like an odd choice when you're trying to find like that magical elixir to finally make North Carolina good and relevant. I don't think the answer is to go back to Mack Brown, just like I don't think Florida State should go back to Bobby. Like go make your own way. Find a guy that's up and coming and can turn you into a winner. But anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's North Carolina. They don't care. It's irrelevant. What I did want to say. So did you see my tweet about Jimbo's nephew?
I don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk. Why you want to besmirch the Fisher family name? Do it on your other show, not this one.
Sorry, man. Apologies.
Okay. Yeah, so this guy apparently is a little bit of what we might refer to as unstable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It might have just been a bad afternoon that I saw him, but I think the issue there is, and the one real issue there is why is he on the field? Why is he on the field? Why is your family on the field interacting with coaches from other schools? I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what Willie Taggart's son looks like.
Yeah.
And I don't know what his wife looks like. But this kind of comes with the territory sometimes when your family's always on the field and your significant others are on the field with you. So, yeah, but anyway, for the people that don't know, real quick, the guy that got into the fight with, who was it? Who was the LSU coach? Kevin Falk?
No, well, apparently, yeah, well, that the photo was taken of him getting into an altercation with Kevin Falk, former NFL running back.
It looked like he was throwing a punch. It looked like he was throwing a pretty good punch.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I mean, Falk, it looked like Falk was landing his.
Right.
But he wasn't backing down. Like, he was stepping into his. It looked like the end of Rocky III.
Yeah, right. The mutual simultaneous punch.
Hey, we got a lot of talented listeners. Somebody recreate that image of Kevin Falk punching Jimbo's nephew in the Rocky III ring with Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa, because it looks really similar to that.
Anyhow, your story, continue on.
No, you were talking. Go.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to say anything. But I think the story says that I guess the story that's coming out from College Station and Baton Rouge is that Jimbo's nephew actually got into an altercation with a LSU assistant that's not Kevin Falk, actually Steve Cragthorpe.
Right.
Steve Cragthorpe used to be the head coach at Louisville. Once Bob Petrino went to the NFL, yeah, and Cragthorpe took over. Anyhow, Steve Cragthorpe unfortunately is battling Parkinson's. So,
right,
Jimbo's
and
nephew,
he has a pacemaker.
I didn't know he had a pacemaker. I know he's
and my man punched him in the chest. Apparently,
Jesus H.
But he didn't know that. Obviously, there's no way you would think of somebody has a pacemaker. It's also weird to punch someone in the chest. But he did that, and I think that's what Kevin Falk was reacting to. And anyway, and I don't know what started it. Maybe they were, I know the one story said Damian Craig just sprinted over to the LSU sideline and started talking all kinds of ish to them because he used to coach there, which wouldn't surprise me, number one, but, it is what it is. And then it kind of got ugly after that, and it ended up with Kevin Falk and Jimbo's nephew throwing punches like Creed and Balboa. But my part of the story is that last year, I can't remember what game it was. It was a home afternoon game. I know that, like a 3:30 game. Might have been the Louisville game or the Syracuse game, maybe. But anyway, I'm sitting in the press box an hour and a half before the game because where else would I be? And I see a guy in a Florida State polo go over to another Florida State staffer and start getting in his face and pointing. They start bumping chests. They have to be separated. They're pushing like they're locked onto each other. And I'm like, I think I was next to Ira. I'm like, are you seeing this? What, there weren't many, you're not really looking down on the field an hour before the game typically, but I saw this happening at like the 30-yard line, and they were really getting aggressive and shoving. And finally the staffer like points to the other end zone, like, go walk away, leave, man, or somebody else did. So finally he begrudgingly starts walking away, walks the whole length of the field to the end of the end zone. So 80 yards probably. And as he's walking towards the end zone, legitimately, he starts punching himself in the face. Like, not like haymakers, like Jim Carrey in that movie, but like hard enough to like hurt, like I would think, like starts punching himself in the chin and in the face, right and left-handed, like they were combos. They were solid combinations. He landed all of them, too. He gets to the end of the end zone, stops for a second, turns around, walks all the way back, and starts it back up again when they're pushing and shoving and screaming, and that happened. So anyway, I believe I might have tweeted about it when it happened. And then the staffer that was involved, not Jimbo's nephew, reached out and said, man, would you please take that down? I don't want that to be a part of it. And I said, dude, who was that guy? And he said, well, it's Jimbo's nephew. And again, for respect to him, and Jimbo controlled the paychecks back then, obviously, I didn't want this guy to get in trouble or being seen as a rabble rouser. So I took that. I think I tweeted it, but either way, I told him, yeah, man, I won't even write about it. I won't ask about it. I won't bring it up again until this year. Jimbo no longer controls his paycheck, so I'm not worried about that. And then we see this guy doing it again after an awesome game. It kind of marred the game. Like 2 days later, we're talking about that. But anyway, so I just thought that was interesting. A little relevance, brought it back home. That I don't know if I'm not going to say the guy's unstable. I don't know him. I think that might be too strong. But he doesn't mind throwing a little bit, is what it seems like.
Yeah, maybe I'll invite him on my next road trip for a Florida State game.
Yeah, man, you going to go hit some bars in South Bend?
Sun
That's
Bowl.
the guy you want around.
2019 Sun Bowl. That's what I'm counting on.
We could only be so lucky, man.
Yeah, this show went way too long. Don't count on this being the norm moving forward, at least when there's not a basketball game to talk about. But one thing did want to talk about before we left, it looks like there is a somewhat – actually, I'm not going to say that. Initially, the story came out about this guy was being suspended from his job at Hilton, the guy who posted the disgusting, pathetic photo of Willie Taggart's face on a lynched body, was suspended by the Hilton Corporation, Hilton Worldwide, earlier on Monday afternoon, and eventually on Monday evening, he is fired. He lost his job.
I like that you said disgusting and not racially charged.
Wow, that really got people charged up.
I don't when did much like unanswered became synonymous with straight and consecutive?
Right.
When did racially charged enter the lexicon?
I don't have a problem with it, though.
But it's not. But it's racist. Racially charged, to me anyway, insinuates that there's two ways to look at it. Yeah, it had some tinges of racism. There was some racism thrown in there, a little bit, just a touch, just a sprinkle of it. I mean, it was a picture of a lynching. It's racist, racially charged. But what's wrong with just saying it's racist? And it's not just the Democrat that has these headlines; they're all over media all the time. Why is racially charged a synonym for racist? Like if a coach came out and said the N-word 9 times, would they say a racially charged press conference?
Yeah, they would.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. They would. The racially charged comments. Nah, man, it's racist. That's all it is. Let's stop with all the pussyfooting around and call it, trying to come up with these clever new terms for something. It's just racist. Racially charged is dumb. It's a dumb way. And also, it's too long. If you're trying to fill out a headline, racist is easier. But yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine. Much like unanswered is racially charged. I don't. It's like one editor at some paper 8 years ago decided that's a cool little. Instead of saying racist, let's change it up with racially charged, and now everybody does it, not even thinking about it. It's racist, man.
I think it would be if it was like
is David Duke a racist? Or is he just racially charged?
Well, he's a racist.
At least we got that. At least we know that.
He's got the holes cut out and everything. You don't ever see a headline.
To me, those are just racially charged costumes.
You never see a headline that says politician is a liar. It's like a politician caught on camera telling falsehoods.
Falsehoods. Yeah, it's like falsehoods. They're lies.
Yeah. Well, calling somebody a liar is like a very judgmental, like it's over, like you're guilty. You've been charged in a court of law, and it's like, you perjured yourself. You're a liar. And
right.
I'm not, and listen, this is probably sounding like I'm coming across as sympathetic to a racist, which makes my skin crawl because that is absolutely not the case at all. It disgusts me that in this day and age, like that man, good grief. I'm not this guy that's like, it's just a game. It's just a game. Chill out. Football is important to me, but how the hell can you think like that and put that stuff out there and then double down on it like a jack?
Yeah. Luckily for all of us, and one of the beauties of social media, now the negative of social media is that we had to see it at all. Like we all know there's people that think racially charged things all the time, but the fact that we had to see it at all is a byproduct of the negativity of social media. Like I'm happy living my life, not ever having to see anything or hear anything like that again because I don't associate with racially charged people. But the good news about social media is, boy, that stuff got flipped quick.
Oh, yeah.
And my man was fired before in 48 hours, he was out of a job. Yeah. So cool, man. You can make your racially charged posts all you want. but now you have to live with the outcome of your racially charged posts
and
your racially charged mindset.
Yeah, and well stated, Corey. And by the way, whoever the guy is that listens to our show on Twitter that currently has me in the middle of a conversation on Twitter with just an out-and-out racist, please stop replying to me in that thread. I don't want to see it anymore. It makes my stomach turn. That's all I've got to say.
There you go,
Corey,
buddy. Well said.
Are we going to do a show? I'm going to put up a thread for Renegade Express. Maybe we'll do a show tomorrow. We'll definitely have one Thursday because it'll be coming off the Knowles in the ACC Big Ten Challenge against Purdue, and we'll probably roll some of the Renegade Express stuff in there as well. 850-792-5730. Give us a call as well. That's all I got. I'm done, Corey. You done?
I'm done, buddy. I'm done. I can't wait to see you again.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you later.